country, takes the UK to court.
Okay,
Education
so
Department to court.
now we agree there is no science for the heliocentric model. Where do the globe Earthers go from here?
I guess we'll
Hey,
defer
Ryan.
to you to do some science and show us the Earth is flat.
Yeah, we're just waiting for Anthony. Like I keep
So the
saying.
flat Earth requires measurements. Remember, we were dealing with physics. So that
Yep,
means
yep.
when things
get on it.
fall, you want to know why.
Get on it, buddy.
Yeah,
How you guys
Anthony's
doing?
been able to answer why things fall.
Good job. Good job.
We'd rather you measure the flatness of the Earth.
The measurements,
the egg-
yeah, we've got...
the egg doesn't show anything about the shape of the Earth.
Who else deals with that? A few others. We've got Rumpus ready to do some measurements. Yeah, we've got people on the case.
Why don't you do it, Ken?
I'm going to go down also,
Yeah.
yeah. If I can find,
What
if I'm able to.
What have you done? What have you done?
I mean, I've already been out there, but
I've never seen you present a single thing you've done, Chemo. in
Oh,
all
he
this time.
did. He went to the beach and held
this
the tape
is
measure.
years ago. Yeah, I've done my
Went to the
part.
beach and held the tape measure. He's done with his experimenting.
I've done my bit. Yes, I need to go out there, trudging through the world and experiment. Doing the experiments, doing the measurements. Obviously, we don't mind going out there if it's worth it. Like if Rumpus wants to go out there, oversee and say, "Hey, Rumpus, look, curvature." That's what we'll do. But in terms of science, waiting for my bio's final experiment, prove there's no force. So, where do you globe Earthers go from here? That's the question. Are you going to enjoy your final days on the flat Earth?
Globers?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Globers, are you going to enjoy your final days?
Yeah, be at peace.
Hey, Johnny retarded one-liner.
Listen, cockroach. What? Like, just shut up.
Talking to me. Talking to me.
No, your little cockroach buddy there who just like a heckle in the background. And never says anything productive. It just flips off a few statements and then just
Maybe
cowers when confronted.
Maybe he's building up to saying a lot more, Rocket.
Maybe.
More frequently, right?
If it's as stupid as his one-liners, then that'll be entertaining.
Come on, new peace of mind. Tell these guys why they're not on a spinning ball flying through a vacuum which defies all physics. Explain to them. I think you don't know.
No, I'd rather him tell me why the sun sets.
Sun sets obviously due to atmospheric lensing. We can replicate this in the laboratory with an experiment. This is nothing new. This is nothing extreme. This is a simple experiment, simple test.
No. You see, there's still a major fault with your theory.
What is the mystery? So you want numbers? Well, again, the person to go to for numbers would be Lemon.
There is no mechanism for which you can get the atmosphere to do this lensing that you speak of. No first principles can lead you there. So I'm not sure. You're going to have to do a little bit more work to show that atmosphere can act like a lens.
Yeah, that's not how science works. Science works with an observed phenomenon. And we hypothesize our independent variable. Then we're going to manipulate our independent variable with that predicted cause.
So the
if
atmosphere
we get the same
is
effect in nature as we do in the laboratory, then it agrees with hypothesis. You only have an equation that you can't calculate how it works. So that's not my fault.
Actually, everything in Snell's law actually accounts for what will happen to the light. So, I mean, we do have a functional model and equations. You have a piece of glass that doesn't simulate anything in reality.
Yeah, the water droplets.
Seems like you're a little bit behind.
What?
Seems like you're a little behind. No, water makes spheres. Water doesn't magnify by itself.
Yeah, they act like a prism in some cases, and
Wait a minute, Scott. Did you just say I have a little behind? Sorry.
So I mean, you don't have an individual sphere a series of individual spheres, little water droplets, cannot magnify an image. That's a problem.
Yes, they can, and they do.
They also cannot create a horizon.
They can, and they do.
Horizon.
Just
They
because
do
you
not.
can't calculate for it is not our problem. As long as we can
All right,
science
It is your problem. It is your problem that they can't
you have
create
a problem with science.
horizon.
We don't.
What you have to do in your laboratories, you have to take some glass spheres, little tiny ones, and just dangle them from strings, essentially, or glue them to a media. I don't care. And you're gonna make magnifying things.
No, we can take those little balls of spheres, put them tightly together, and make a magnifying glass.
Yes, you're gonna have to see if you can make it
Done already,
magnify.
magnifying glass.
Not tightly together, loosely together.
Not loosely together, it's tightly together.
But no, the atmosphere is not tightly together.
At that area, yes, it's more dense there.
This also has to make the sun stay the same size no matter how far away it is, and it has to then make it be cut in half as it gets further away, and then lower it down to the horizon. Your model cannot do any of those things.
Wow, I mean,
And it's gonna be 1,600 times less dense than glass, give or take.
don't know how the sun works, but we know what the sun does itself. But we
We
know
don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the
It's
sun
It's not
is.
about
It's
the sun
an
doesn't
object.
cause that
It's an
effect
object.
itself,
1,600
does it?
times less dense, but isn't there more than 1,600
Yes, but the sun
times
doesn't
the
cause that
distance
effect.
between them?
Atmosphere causes that effect.
Hold on. Oh, excuse me. Grim, what was that?
So isn't there more than 1,600 times the distance between them?
I'm not sure. I was just going with water vapor. Water to water vapor is a 1,600 time increase. So, but glass is 2 or 3 times more dense than water. So it'd probably be like 3,600 times less dense than glass. Something
Right,
like
but
that.
wouldn't one of those variables stretched, like fill in the empty space for the other variable? Like to say that because it's dense per cubic centimeter, but let's say we're looking, through the atmosphere, we're looking through a lot more.
Yeah, I don't know how you would use that.
Thickness. So I know there's got to be a calculation for that. So you know what I mean.
Grim,
That's where we're at with that.
For refraction, Grim, for refraction, it doesn't matter how thick the glass is. It's just a matter of the change in densities.
Right, over distance though. The change of density over
It doesn't matter.
distance.
The distance does not matter for this.
Well, it would if the medium was only a millimeter thick, right? But if the medium is 10 miles thick,
Then
now we're talking
then it will
about
still
something different.
then the incidence angle through the medium in both cases is still going to be the same as long as the density of both is the same.
Yeah, that's no. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. If let's just say that we're looking through an atmosphere that's
Okay, so light is coming in at a 30-degree angle. It enters a medium. Okay, go for it. Sorry. Go for it. Sorry. Please go on.
Yeah, appreciate it. So just imagine that atmosphere between you and the object is an 1/8 inch thick, right? With a gradient on the bottom that's much denser than the top, but it's like a mirror of atmosphere. That's what I'm saying, like a thin, glass of atmosphere. Now we have to calculate the distances between the object and the observer with the density included, not just the density alone. So that other variable is how much material through that density that you're going to have to look through.
No, not really, Grim, because if you have, let's say you've got a sheet of glass. Let's say you've got a sheet of glass that's the same you got 2 sheets of glass. They have the same properties except one is a mile thick and one is 1/8 of an inch thick. While light is traveling through that glass, if it hit at an angle, the angle that it bends to is going to be the same in both. It doesn't matter. It's when it exits that you'll get a reverse, that you'll get the incidence ray back out.
Exactly.
So the distance in which it travels through the glass is not going to make a difference on the damn angle that it's going through.
No, absolutely. It's not. We're not talking about just glass, though. Remember, we're talking about it thin as glass, but being atmosphere.
It's not going to make a difference.
We're talking about atmosphere. I mean, you switched it over to.
I'm not. There's not a difference there.
No, there absolutely is.
All right, explain to me what the difference is going to be that the incidence ray is going to suddenly change according to how far it has to go through a medium.
All right. Well, okay. So it's not the incidences. That's the first entrance of the light. That's not what we're actually talking about. We're talking about its path through the medium all the way to the other end. to the other end. So it does matter how dense or thick it is to change the the exiting course of the light.
You still haven't explained why. You just said that it will because it does.
It's almost retardedly intuitive. It would, because if the lights travel. If I cut off a fiber optic, then or bend it in one direction or the other, and I'm obviously changing the exiting angle of the light. So
Now,
it's the same for the
fiber
medium.
optic is different. Fiber optic is a contained pathway for light. This is not a contained pathway for light.
Fiber optics walk through total internal reflection, not through refraction.
Yeah.
Right. That's true too. But it's kind of the same property, kind of the same concept though.
No, not really.
As far as
Not
the
really,
exiting
no.
of the light. So I don't know how to exactly explain it, guys. I mean,
Charlie.
What's up, Chemo? How you doing?
I'm doing swell. Just looking for a bit of science to support the heliocentric model.
Oh, really?
It's a part of the flat Earth model.
let us finish
goddammit.
this conversation though, Chemo, for real, so I can like wrap my head around what we're talking about.
What? Oh, okay.
Obviously,
can
I'm
wait.
learning
I can
something.
wait.
I'd appreciate it if you didn't just do that.
Like, okay.
Yeah, so to me it just seems intuitive that the entire thickness between you and the object would actually matter as to as much as the gradient itself, because without the entire thickness you wouldn't even have the gradient. So depending on the thickness is how this or the gradient and the thickness of it would determine the ultimate path of the light, not just the actual gradient alone.
Mm-hmm. You know what I like to think about, Grim? And they're gonna think this off topic. But the blackness of space in between the stars.
Thanks. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about. He's trying to learn something.
Well, it does, but we're gonna talk about how these light rays come through the medium and then they're dispersed. But yet when we talk about the refraction moving the real object in the distance on the horizon to the apparent position because of the angle at which it's hitting our eye. Think about that, right? How can it only be one angle at which this stuff is hitting our eye? How can it be, a little bit more is coming from this area? So it's, but yet there's,
Because your eye is small surface area.
The blackness of space.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, blackness
anyway,
is,
I'll save them.
There could be all
But
kinds of stuff
anyway.
out there you don't see.
So Charles,
What's up, man?
how you doing?
Sorry, I had to step out yesterday.
Oh no!
I really got.
Don't apologize, mate. It's all
Don't
good.
worry about it.
I
have
had
you
to,
what science is
Feel free to do it again.
any science available today?
Yeah, I mean, I went back and I skimmed through my old applied electromagnetics book. It's funny because I have like all my old notes here from when I was in college, and I actually like got a little bit emotional. This is like around the time where I decided to get Maxwell's equations tattooed on me.
Right, yeah. But what I'm thinking is, we're supposed to be on a spinning ball flying through space, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
That's the general idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
No? Yeah. Charlie?
No, we're not flying through space.
I said yes.
Ah, right.
We're
No,
in-
you're
okay.
not. No, don't
Is
let him walk you
this-
into some shit like that. You're
is
not flying through
this,
space. You're falling.
Is this reality practically, or is it just a mathematical equation?
I'm okay with the language I'm using. I'm sorry. What did you ask?
Is it real, like real reality, like a real thing? You know, like real. Was it just like a real physical curvature, or is it just like a mathematical equation? The idea that we're on a ball spinning flat.
I mean, it can be both, right?
I don't know. What is going on with Is it? What is it? What is it? A real thing?
As far as I'm aware, it's a real thing.
No, but how aware are you of this?
Pretty aware. Like 99.99999. Some nines.
What gives you the 99?
What gives me the assurance, or what is
was
the
it like
last
science
bit?
or was that the maths part?
The city that thinks the globe is real.
I mean, it's both, and I can explain why it's
Go on,
both.
then,
Like,
go on. Explain to
like
me why it's both. Yeah.
right. So the math just gives you possible models, right? The math doesn't tell you what actually is true in and of itself. You need observations to rule out models, and so like actual data from the real world constrains down models in the math, and then the math tells you an answer.
Right.
So
that's just the math side, yeah.
yeah.
Yes. What about the real practical?
I mean, I think that math is practical. I know that flat earthers here don't like think that math is like a psyop operation or some shit, or something to make you feel dumb. But no, it's actually real and useful.
Operation.
Yeah. Well, what I just mean is like, is the Earth then physically measured, or is it calculated like with equations?
I mean, I don't think we have like a massive ruler to physically measure, right?
Why
like
not?
there are, because it's impractical and we have better
But
ways to do it.
we have cable running all the way around the balls. Why is it impractical?
Mm-hmm. Because we have easier ways to do it.
Why not just put markers on the cable, 1 meter, 2 meter, 3 meter, 4, and then go all the way around the ball with the cable?
I already told you why it's impractical. We have
Nah, man, but we don't
easier
trust
ways
you,
to do
Charlie. Charlie, you know what you just said 2 minutes ago? I know the flat earthers want to think math is a psyop, so you're like crazy, right? Like you don't know what. That's not a true position. That's just an exaggerated.
Okay. So you're right. I should take it back. Not all flat earthers, but there are a good amount of flat earthers here that don't even think that trigonometry is real. So
okay, so
Yeah,
why?
There's actually one in the chat right now who thinks that math breaks down the moment you leave the ground.
So listen, if we can lay a cable all the way around the Earth, why can't we have a ruler all the way around the Earth?
I'm not saying we can't physically do it. I'm saying it's impractical. We have, if your objective is to measure the curvature of the Earth, we have easier ways to do it than to get like a huge fucking sewing ruler.
Is there a practical? Was it just, or has it just been?
Right, like I don't know how to explain to you that getting an Earth-sized measuring tape is not practical.
All right, so all you got to do is say no. There is no practical measurement of the Earth.
No, I'm saying measuring it with a massive measuring tape is impractical.
No. If we did have a massive measuring tape, that would be the most practical way, right?
I mean, it's definitely possible, and I encourage you to build a measuring
now
tape
you're
that long.
thinking about the underwire cables that run all the way around the ball, right? So it's not a huge task. Yeah, get that much cable.
I mean, it is a huge task.
Okay, so you just get a boat. You get one of them things that reel them out.
Here's the thing, Chemo. The people who are capable of actually
navigate the ball.
Chemo, the people who are capable of actually solving the engineering problems involved in building a measuring tape that will withstand the conditions necessary to measure the Earth all around are not the sort of people. Can you not interrupt me, please? Now I forgot where I'm.
It's not break. It's a cable.
Can you not interrupt me? Can you not interrupt me? So like
you're
the people.
attempting to make a good point. He can't have that.
No, but he's saying it's going to break, and I'm like, it's the cable. How's it going to break?
All right, am I not going to get to answer it at all?
Go on, Charlie.
Chemo, let the guy speak. Jesus Christ.
Can you shut the fuck up and let me finish my point?
Straight line cable.
Charlie, you do have to let him interrupt you. That's his way.
It's all right. I carry on, Charlie. Go on.
Go ahead, Chemo. Interrupt him.
The sort of people who have the knowledge and the engineering know-how to build a measuring tape or whatever measuring device, like physical measuring device, that is capable of going around the Earth are not the sort of people that need to be convinced that the Earth is a globe or is flat.
You're talking about a cable?
They've got undersea cables done that go all the way around the board, so he's going to say, oh, we can't build a wire long enough. Well, yeah, we've got a cable.
Yeah, he sounds ridiculous. I agree with you.
I never said that deep. Why is it that you think that I'm saying it's impossible?
No, we don't think you're saying it's impossible. We just think you said that you need to have a smart glober.
Don, listen for a second. Chemo did just say that that he was saying it could not be made.
Don't
undo people's straw man.
Made. Not a big
No
deal.
one don't do chemo straw man for them.
Chemo, you and I agree that it's possible, so why don't you do it?
Why hasn't it been done already?
No, why haven't you done it?
Because we need to see if it can be done so it's repeatable.
You have more of a stake on this than anybody else, really.
Because
so why haven't you done
what
it?
would happen, we would start at the North Pole, we would head out south and just continue, wouldn't be enough wire.
I don't mind agreeing with Charlie here.
Go on and on and on and on and on an infinite plane. You're never going to go back around to where you started. That's why it hasn't been done, Charlie.
I mean, you realize that you don't even have to go to the Antarctica even? You could go along the equator so you can avoid the whole fucking conspiracy theory
No.
No, you want to go north to south, Charlie. North to south.
Why can't you go around the equator?
Because you're trying to prove a board, Charlie. North to south.
What?
You can go around there on the equator on a flat plane. It's no big deal. But north to south is impossible on a flat plane, but possible on a board.
I see what you're saying. So you convinced on where the edge of the disc is, right?
Well, we want to know
if you try to go north to south, you'll end up going south, and forever south. Possibly hit a dome, but we don't know. You won't have enough wire to continue that far.
I mean, that is the point of contention, isn't it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why it hasn't been done. That's my point.
Just do it.
Charlie.
Do it then.
It can't be done.
Make the attempt, Chemo.
Attempt to do it and show that it can be done.
That's why I asked you. Is there physical measurements? That's no.
Listen. All you have to do is, get obviously a huge stake and like a huge fucking piece of tape. Stick it down in the North Pole.
Not tape, cable.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
tell me what matters. Tell me why does it matter?
I want it to break.
Okay, so.
Kima, just double up the tape,
it doesn't fucking matter what it is, right? As long as it has a measuring on it, right? The reason I use tape is because it's measuring tape.
Yeah, but then that sounds silly. That sounds like a flat earth saying, tape. How's tape
obviously
on the board? You think a little bit deeper than that, and the underground cables are just fine.
Right. You solve the engineering problem, and all it has to be is like a cable. Sure, I'll go to that. So you stick it at the top, right? And then you take it down. God, this is such a dumb conversation. So you take it down, you take it all the way down to what I would call the South Pole, right? And then you get a certain length. And what you're saying is, what? Like it would eventually, like you'll reach the edge of the world?
No, I'm saying to you, the first point was, has the Earth been measured practically, or has it been calculated mathematically? You said both. So I asked you, has it been measured like with a cable all the way around? You said no, it's not practical. So I'm asking you, what is the practical measurement?
Do you understand that there are more ways to measure
that's
distances?
What I'm asking. What is the other practical way that they've measured the shape of the Earth?
Okay, sure. That's a valid question. There are multiple ways in which you could do it, right? The one that comes to mind immediately, because I've spent all day reading about EM, all day and all night yesterday actually, is that you can observe the apparent horizon, right? You can factor in the properties of the atmosphere. You can adjust for refraction as to where the horizon is, and you will get a pretty good approximation as to where the real horizon is, and then you will get a pretty good measurement for what the curvature of the Earth is.
Okay, let's see who's done this. How and when. I believe that sounds doable. You didn't just make it up. You didn't just calculate that in your head, right?
I can't do it in my head.
You said there are other ways that this has been done physically. So has somebody that you know of done this, been to the horizon, and done that calculation that you speak?
What was that? What was the blah 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 blah?
Because he's all over the place. Stick to the point. I said to him, has anyone... See, this is what's happening here. I asked him a very simple question. Has anyone been around the board with a tape, with a cable? He said no.
No, because that's a common thing to do.
What is another practical way that someone else has done it?
That's not even a single practical way.
I'm asking him for another practical way that somebody else has measured the board.
Listen.
Okay.
Have you heard? I think it was Plato. I don't remember who it was. It was fucking like before Christ.
All right, you fucking stuff fucking great. Just fucking.
What?
Chris, just let him go. He's new to the arena. Let him run the chemo tutorial level. It's fine.
So if you get a city with in two known distances, right? and you have a way to synchronize time, which they did back then. I don't know how it was, but they did. And then you have two.
Costhenes.
You have two vertical structures with known heights.
Yep.
And you can observe the angle at which they cast shadows, right? And using that and just basic trigonometry, you can infer that up for city A is different than up for city B, which implies it is curved, and you can actually get a number for the curvature for that.
Of course.
And using that curvature, you can calculate a radius.
There's nothing basic about trigonometry.
That
flat
falls
earthers,
into
mate.
the calculating part, right? Not a problem.
Excuse me?
That falls into calculating. You're going to calculate this angle, this shadow, this distance, but based on the presupposition the Earth is curving. That's fine.
Charlie?
I already asked you in the first place. Has it been calculated? You said yes. I said has it been practically measured?
Okay, so hold on. What is wrong?
Charlie?
Hold on,
nothing basic about trigonometry for these.
What is wrong with instead of what is wrong with like
nothing
making an observation
nothing
and then plugging it into a calculation?
I didn't say anything was wrong with that. I asked you in the beginning, has the Earth only been calculated or has it been practically measured? You said both.
I mean, it's both, yes.
Yeah, so now you're giving me the calculation version.
No. Right? So there's the calculation, which is the trigonometric part, and then there's the observation, which is like collecting, for example, the height of the buildings and the angles of the shadows, right?
Mm-hmm.
That do you not see how that's both?
You have to like how Chemo is trying to draw a distinction between what is practical and what is mathematics. Mathematics is practical.
Like, Chemo, I want you to ask you an honest question.
Make a distinction between actually physically measuring something and calculating something, yeah?
They're not distinct. They're not disjoint. I know you're trying to make them mutually exclusive, but they're not.
Well, we'll find out that they are, right? Because with the sticks, you're calculating the angle based on the distance here, and then based on if it is a ball curving away from you, this is what the radius will be. That's you calculating. Now,
I mean, it's do you understand how something can involve both a calculation and a measurement?
Yeah, that's what you're doing. It's the calculation.
Okay, great, excellent. That is what I mean when I say that.
No, but you didn't make a practical measurement, did you?
I mean, you think it's not practical, but that doesn't mean it isn't.
You measured the shadow. Yeah?
Just because basic math is extremely difficult for you does not mean it's impractical for the rest of us.
Yes, but you measured the shadow of the stick. Yes, the angle.
Sure.
Okay, so that's the only practical measurement you made. Then you calculated, based on the distance, if the Earth is a ball, how much the angle would be. That's your calculation. So yeah, you're right, there are measurements, but we're talking about the Earth itself. Has the Earth itself been measured practically, or has it only been calculated?
I call that a measurement of the Earth. That is a measurement of the Earth.
You've measured your sticks, you've measured your angle, that's not the Earth, you've measured your sticks, and then you calculated, yes, so right now we're at, you don't like my table measurement, that's the practical one, versus your calculations. What else do we have? There's lots.
Okay, Chemo, how do you measure time?
Don't know.
You don't know how to measure time.
I don't know much. No, I only know how to ask questions.
You think the only way to measure distances is with a stick?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking questions. You're the expert in this, yeah?
I gave you a different way to measure distances.
Chemo, please don't do the sea lion show this early.
Well,
it's way too early in the morning. It's way too early for you to say that you don't. No, Chemo.
Nobody knows anything, and if you think they do, they have to prove their claim.
Chemo, it is way too early for you to say that an odometer is.
We are measuring the Earth.
It's way too early.
No, if it's way too early for you and ask silly questions, then
No, you're the one who's being silly, Chemo. You're the one who's saying that you cannot calculate distance using time.
No, I didn't say any of that. I said, has anyone measured the Earth practically? That's all I said. Or has it only been calculated?
Chemo, why is the use of calculation impractical?
It's not. I didn't say any of that. I asked you. I asked you very simple
but you clearly don't think my method is practical, right?
Practically measured, or has it only been calculated? So far, we've only got the calculation.
What is impractical about my measurement?
Practical, like I just said, with the cable slapped on the ground, measuring 1 meter, 2 meter, 10 foot, 3 foot, 50 foot, 50 miles, 10 miles, and so on.
You think that's more practical than doing some
I'm not
basic
about
math
what's
and
more
observing shadows?
practical. I'm asking, has it been done? No, fine. Is what else has been done? You're saying you've put sticks in the ground, you calculated.
I call that a practical measurement of the Earth's curvature.
Well, that's not what I call practical now.
Well,
No,
I mean,
I-
don't you see that that is a difference of opinion at this point?
Well, no, because we now understand my version
like-
of practical and your version, so we don't have to argue about that. You understand that I understand. I mean, on the ground physically with hands. You're saying no, that hasn't been done. It's never been done. No one's ever done that. We've only calculated it.
So are you asking me?
Mm-hmm.
Is there has the shape of the Earth been calculated without? Or sorry, excuse me. Has the shape of the Earth been measured without math? Right?
No. Again, try to listen. I don't know how to have to say. Has the Earth been physically measured?
Question, Chemo. I'm just gonna point out something, Chemo.
Okay.
You may have your own definition of what is considered to be practical, but outside of your own little bubble that you have, the word practical has a different connotation outside of what you're meaning. So what you're saying is actually irrelevant to the conversation.
No, I understand. I understand what you
practical.
mean by practical. You're saying because we put sticks in the ground, we measure the angle. That's an actual measurement. That actual measurement on the angle.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's
you're
not
saying
what
that
I'm saying.
angle is
I'm specifically saying that your definition of practical is irrelevant. To
Do you have
how
a
it is worded in the
phone?
world.
Do you have a
let's
phone?
explore that then. So you put this stick in the ground. Stick in the ground, is that practically...
Stay on point.
No, it's not. It's not
What I'm
practical.
talking
Charlie,
What I view as practical
I need
is
to do this step by step.
easy. You know.
So let me go through it step by step. Put the stick in the ground. Have you measured the Earth?
With a stick on the ground?
Just a stick
No.
straight in the ground. Is that the measurement of the Earth? No. Now.
I have personally never measured the Earth with a stick.
No.
And
I'm going through the process of when the actual practical measurement has been
You're
made.
trying to see what's practical to you.
I want to go through the steps to figure out at which point you think that is the practical measurement of the Earth. So the stick in the ground is not the practical measurement of the Earth. Now, walk up to the stick. What are you going to do next?
Are you asking me what I think is practical? Because
No, I'm
for me, a
asking what is
synonym for
next.
practical would
Kimo,
be like...
why not put it an actual measurement? Put it this way, an actual measurement of the Earth.
Actual, okay, if that's how you see
Okay, let's put it this way. Okay, so if we go on and demand an actual measurement of the curvature of the Earth, we would like some vertical things on the ground, thousands of them, and then physically showing to us it's curving at the rate you're saying it's curving. Not pictures, not mathematical calculus. No,
that has been done.
physical.
Uh-huh.
Right?
That
You
has
agree
been
with
done.
that?
Andrew, welcome. Excellent. So,
That has been done.
let's rephrase that then, Charlie. Actual, has there been an actual measurement of the Earth?
Of the curvature of the Earth? Yes.
Physical.
For sure.
Where?
That doesn't even involve any calculations, yes.
Show us.
Let's have a look.
Sure. Fuck. I mean, I don't... So their experiment, as I recall, is you have two sticks, right? And you impale them to the ground at a known height, and they have like holes in them. Okay. And you separate them by a great distance. I don't remember what the distance is, right? But the point is that you put a camera on one side that is aligned with the two holes on the sticks, and then on the other end, the objective is to shine a flashlight through the holes, such that the camera will see them.
I
Now, if
said
the Earth
no
is-
optical, no visual, nothing. Physical, hardcore, metal, or whatever the hell you want to make them of.
Actual.
I mean, I don't. Do you not think that light is real?
No, we don't want to use that. We just want a physical, very long line that actually shows next to water it's actually bending. Has anybody done that? Has
That's
anybody
what we're asking.
manufactured a 2-mile long, perfectly straight piece of
If
metal?
no, then it's no. Not like a gotcha.
So you think that's practical, right?
It's not about if
I
it's
think-
practical, it's has it been
That's
done?
not how we actually make measurements when we're surveying. I mean, this is
Oh,
ridiculous
God.
standard of requirement, isn't it?
Yeah.
NASA's making about close to $100 million every single day. I guess they have enough money to
53
just
million
make it
is like-
once. Listen,
You are mistaken. NASA wants to convince people like you.
At the current moment.
But is having the money a reason to do something?
They could just shut us down for once and for all, like just end the whole
But
thing.
why do they care
No.
about a few hundred idiots on the internet? Why would they care?
Well, you could call us idiots and something, but the thing is,
And-
it's growing. So if they do give a fuck, then they should do it.
Well, there's no evidence at all that it's growing. The evidence
And
is,
there's no evidence at all that
Yeah.
they give a shit.
the evidence is that it's shrinking. And
Well, if you just look at Discord groups and Telegram groups and all that, I can pretty well see the number is going up. Wouldn't you say
I
that's
prefer the term flattening. The numbers flattening.
if you look at,
Oh.
for instance, the attendees at flat Earth events, the numbers are clearly going down. If you look at the amount of
COVID maybe? What?
If you look at no, I'm talking about long before that. If you look at the amount of YouTube content that gets created, it's going down.
Well, that's just because YouTube, I think, sort of really went down hard on the flat earthers, which is a shame for me
Not
because
really.
I
That's not
enjoyed
true.
it.
There's loads you can. I produce stuff with flat Earth tags in it all the time.
Well, what was the name of that
Anyway.
guy from Australia? He was like that dope fish reacted to. That guy was hilarious.
Is it Eric Dubé by any chance?
Yeah,
I know he's
yeah,
a flat earther.
Global numbers.
I mean, if anybody can find his videos, I would send you $10.
Anyway, it's
on
not
them right
about popularity or not. It doesn't matter if
Look.
there is just one person who understands the Earth is not a globe, and all the rest of them have this belief. If they can't demonstrate,
Well, it is about
Yeah.
popularity because the argument was being made that public money should be spent on, proving things to flat earthers, not that any.
No.
Listen,
public money
do
would be-
you
No,
know
no, no,
about
no,
the
no,
forcing
Andrew, I
the
didn't
line
say any of that,
experiment?
Andrew.
Yes, of course I know about the force the line experiment. It's very, very silly, and it will.
Why
never
is it
happen
silly?
Because it's impossible.
What the fuck? What? Okay, I never heard that before. What's impossible in forcing the line experiment?
Oh, you've got to create this structure that goes a great enough distance for there to be some curvature differential, if you like, for want of a better phrase,
Well-
for you to be able to observe. And that means creating this structure perfectly over a substantial distance. And
You realize it's not made out of
and that-
one long
and that-
thing. It's made
no,
out of lots of
No,
small things.
that's where the problem lies. Because in each of those each time you join one of your little segments together to make it is an opportunity for there to be an error.
You're
Yeah, and
holding
if
a
you
thousandth
have
of an inch and a thousandth of an inch per foot clearance, which is less than the clearance between a piston and its cylinder in a car engine.
There you go. That's why it's impossible.
Does it make sense that you don't want a practical measurement of the globe? That would be a.
I
See,
think we've
by the way,
we've got a practical measurement of the globe. I think this is an absurd standard. I just think it's silly
This
and
is
it's
normal.
and I think the purpose of it is for it to be impossible, so that we can always say, well, we will believe it once we've got this thing.
Jump on it. You do realize that's how we're building, long roads and all kinds of.
There's no road that's built to a thousandth of an inch per foot tolerance.
Exactly. And that's the
point
difference.
is-
That's what you seem to understand. Like fundamentalist Christians, you seem to lack an understanding of tolerance.
The point is, even if we're globers, you would still want to see the Earth curving practically. And this device
have.
is a device that will
devices.
show the Earth curving or not practically. It's going to be a problem.
We have chemo. It's been done practically. People have gone out and practically done it using practical instruments and practical
No,
methodologies
they are
that have
they've
been
been lied
tested time
to.
and time
They've lied
again.
to us. They
You've
haven't
been
shown
shown
us
this
how, when,
information,
or who.
chemo, and you've been shown it repetitively. So,
Yeah.
So-
I'm fed up with you saying it doesn't exist and it's not there when you've been shown the stuff. You just want to hand wave it away because you've come up, like with Andrew here, a set of criteria so you can hand wave away this evidence.
Okay, can we
that
get back to
screws
the
you
evidence
boots.
side now?
And as Andrew pointed out, there's a contradiction here because he's quite happy to accept that roads that are built without using this physical method.
What
and are
about
built
bridges? You know that they
Shut up,
literally have
shut
to
up,
make the
I'm
whole
still
thing in 1
talking.
millimeter.
I am still speaking. That are made using these optical methods that you guys are rejecting, and that you're presenting bridges and roads as examples. Well, these are done accurately using optical methods. So why is the optical method good enough for a bridge or a road and not good enough
This has gone out of
to measure the
control.
curvature of the Earth?
This wasn't what was being asked. Andrew, this is not what was being said. Okay?
Andrew, can I just say one
This
thing?
wasn't a gotcha
You really fucked it up for him now.
Yeah, this
Andrew,
wasn't a
look.
gotcha
Andrew.
for Charlie. I was simply asking him, has the Earth only been calculated, or has there been a practical measurement? Now,
It's neither.
we're going through...
I told you it's neither.
We're going through what is a practical and what is a calculation. That's where we are right now. So right now, we don't have any practical measurements. That's fine until we can figure out if we have one. But we're looking at how you calculated, or how there are only calculations so far of the globe.
Hey, Chemo.
That should worry
Chemo,
you.
can you use less subjective language? Because practical is an entirely subjective thing.
Actual. That's the one we should be using. Actual.
Okay, I mean, again, I think actual is also so, which is why I asked you: is it more accurate to say with no
Physical.
calculations? I mean, it's also physical to me. Like the observations come from the real world, right?
Right.
So if you're asking for a measurement outcome that is done without any calculations, then I would understand your question more.
Yeah, calculations are not physical, are they?
Okay, that's
okay.
My IQ just went down by like 20 points.
Okay, if you don't want to
mean,
use, wait, I'll take this.
Sure.
If you don't want to use any math, there's actually a much simpler way to determine the shape of the Earth without using any basic measurements. And it's the way that you do this is by you travel to the first thing you have to do is you have to observe what the sky is doing. If the sky does not rotate in any way whatsoever, we can't use it as a measurement. But in the case of us, it does rotate. So we can't use it as a way to determine if it's a sphere or a flat plane. So if we go, let's go to a random point on the planet. Okay, let's pick the northern hemisphere for example. If you observe it, the sky rotates counterclockwise. Now on a spherical plane, that would mean that on the top of the sphere it would rotate counterclockwise, and on the bottom half of the sphere it would rotate clockwise. On a flat plane, that would mean that the sky rotates counterclockwise all across the entire plane. All we have to do from here on out is just literally travel down south to like Argentina, Cuba, not necessarily Cuba, but whatever. Africa or Australia or New Zealand, and just observe the night sky and see what direction it rotates. And lo and behold, it rotates clockwise, meaning that we're on a spherical plane of some kind, a spherical planet.
No, that has to do with your personal dome.
There is no such thing as a personal dome.
And it gives you the appearance of the stars moving in the opposite.
You got any practical measurements for that?
Yeah, Walter Bison's flat Earth model.
The most obvious thing to do would...
That's a mathematical model, Chemo. That doesn't qualify for your
That's
standard.
not a physical. Yeah, that's not a practical.
Yeah, it's
right
not
now
practical.
we're dealing with
I asked what
calculating,
practical measurements have you
not a
got for the personal
practical
dome, Chemo?
actual.
But the problem is, Chemo, and this is something that you don't fail to realize, either you're doing this unintentionally or unintentionally, I really don't care. The problem is that you're using the word practical, which in your world, in your own word, means something completely different to what everyone else thinks. But outside of your own personal bubble, the word practical has a different meaning to you, so to everyone else around you. So what you're talking about when you say the word practical is completely irrelevant. What do you mean by practical?
So, for example, if something is a meter, you don't have to look at a piece of wood and think about and calculate, well, if the shadow on the wood is this long, then I guess the wood should be that long. Just put the ruler on the wood, measure it, end of subject. Yeah? That's practical. Not calculating how long the wood is. See, without touching it. You're trying to measure the wood without touching it. Basic. That's how I see it. So you would put one stick at one end of the wood, another stick at another end of the wood, look at the shadows, and then calculate without just putting...
Right, but sometimes we just use a laser, right? We can bounce a laser off a wall, and that will tell us how far away something is, right?
Yeah, but you can't measure the Earth with lasers, can you?
Well, no, but what I'm pointing out is that we use different methods for measuring things, right?
No, I'm just explaining that the difference between... He's saying that
I understand that you have a particular sort of passion for this particular method of measurement. But I think that is all you're expressing, just that you feel that this is what you want. You can't come up with a logical reason for demanding this to the exclusion of everything else.
Absolutely. One last point, Mel, you can get in. Absolutely, because for all we know, Jam, is you guys are just guessing. If I say to you, how long is that piece of wood? Oh, well, it's about 1.2 meters, 1.3, maybe 1. You know, that's what you guys are doing. You're guessing your way, because remember the radius is just an
measuring
estimate.
things using a method of measurement.
Everything to you is just an estimate. It's not perfect.
No, it's not. Well, no measurement is perfect. When you lay a ruler down next to something, your measurement isn't perfect, is it?
Well, the meter will always be a meter.
Well, it depends, doesn't it? Depends who manufactured the ruler, how much care they took manufacturing it, what the ruler's made of, what temperature it is.
No, I don't mean
how
that.
good your eyesight is, what angle you lay it on the wood at. Maybe that that could be slightly wrong. There's 101 things that could affect how the result is, how accurate the result is.
I don't mean that.
Plus, it's only accurate. It's only accurate down to usually a millimeter.
No,
what if
I don't mean that.
What if you need 1/100 of a millimeter accuracy? Then what are you going to do?
I don't mean that.
How are you going to be able to see that?
I don't mean that. I'm saying once you measure something, like say you measure a foot, something is a foot, like your foot or whoever's foot. So that foot. So I mean, so if you're going to go by your foot, that piece of wood. So once you cut it to your size, it will always be a foot. The wood.
No, that's not true for all the reasons I've just given. There's a whole load of things that could vary how that measurement takes place.
Wood shrinks as it dries.
Not for drop.
Andrew, could I just say one thing to Andrew, if that's all right? Andrew, are you there?
Yeah.
So if a bunch of your friends were going to build a house and you knew the builders, you had the materials, what you'd do, you'd all put your heads together and you'd figure out a way to solve the problem. You'd come up with solutions. Do you notice what Jem's sort of doing is coming up with every excuse in the book not to solve it? He just comes up with the reasons why it's impossible. Do you see?
Yeah,
it's
good
a
point.
counter.
Good point.
But that's what you're doing, isn't it?
There you go.
You're saying we've only got this one way to solve this problem, and no other way is good enough for us because they all rely on some sort of inaccuracy. But my argument is that is true of all measurements. They all have
you keep saying exactly what I want to say. It's annoying.
Right. They all have some method of some aspect of inaccuracy to them.
I have a question.
So therefore that is not a reason to reject that method.
So does this come from a place of like you don't understand how this method works and therefore you reject it?
No,
I see it as invalid.
Nothing
It
a
has
flat
nothing to
earther
do with
says
that.
comes from not understanding things.
We're looking for the fucking drop.
What it has to do with is pointing out that excuses are being made here, not problem solving or solutions.
Well,
Wait.
Some things
Jem.
are not possible though.
Jem, do you really said that like it's not that they don't understand the arguments?
Right.
You really? Because to me,
yes, really, dude. People have been all the things you're saying. People have been saying to these folk for the last 5 years. It's
Right,
not like we've all been waiting for you to turn up and make a really good job of explaining it to them.
No. You misunderstand me. You're speaking over me. I'm speaking over you.
They don't want this to be true, dude.
I understand that, but my whole proposal, I guess, is that they don't want it to be true because they don't understand it, and it's not like I'm going to be able to convince them by making them understand.
You're wrong, dude. They don't
Perhaps I am. I'm not asserting that I'm right.
Well, they don't want. It isn't that they don't understand it. It's that they get emotional feedback from believing that the Earth is flat. They get to
looking
believe
for the drop.
They get to believe.
So you're saying that
Let's
there are
go.
others who understand,
Charlie.
who really do understand the global Earth model
Charlie,
and the evidence
Charlie.
for it.
Charlie, I'm one of the original flat earthers. You ready for this?
Yeah.
You ready for this? So it's not that we don't understand.
One of the
It's
average.
not about
Fuck
not
off.
Get the fuck
understanding.
out of here.
I beg your pardon? So anyway, when this began, I was one of the people who was there. I've watched this unfold. So it has nothing to do with not being
What
able
is
to
it? What does that have to
understand
do? What is your
things.
origin story? Is it religious or map based?
It has nothing to do with any of that. It's about what's real.
Okay,
It's
so
about
here's the thing. Forgive me if I don't believe you,
Now,
but every
tell us
single time
about
that
the,
I ask somebody
the
about
fucking-
this, and
I
like I
didn't
ask
even
them
get
to
to ask my
explain.
question. Just shut up for a second, and then I'll shut up. Now, what it's really about is problem solving, not making excuses.
Tell us about the
Okay, are you done?
centipede surgery.
So like,
Right?
again, forgive me if I don't believe you, but every single time that I approach somebody who's a flat earther who tells me they understand, and then I ask them to explain basics of trigonometry, they can't, and then they say that math is a lie or that it breaks down, and they say they understand it.
You can
Right.
ask me anything
Those
about
two
trigonometry.
views
But that
are
would be
compatible.
true. That would be true of almost everyone you ask. You could go out into the street and ask dozens of people, and they will all say the same thing. Well, I don't really understand trigonometry. You
Right,
get
but
that
then-
answer over and over again, but it doesn't make them believe the Earth's flat.
Right, listen. If they say they don't understand trigonometry, that is not what the flat earthers are saying. They're saying they understand it, but that it's a lie.
It doesn't matter.
Like those,
What
those
don't you
two,
understand?
None of that
Tell me
matters.
the such thing as
If you
an
get them to
understanding.
accept and understand trigonometry, it won't make them believe that the Earth isn't flat.
Jim, you're totally misunderstanding what I'm saying.
I'll give you a quick example of I think where I'll try and steel man your point about Andrew. I think you're the one that keeps asking for drop.
Nah, I keep asking for actual measurement, but anyway.
Yeah. Someone keeps asking for drop.
Okay.
And for me that's kind of weird. That's a misunderstanding because we don't measure curves in drop. We measure curves by degrees over distance.
Zanuck does though. You know, foolish Zanuck gives it to him.
You know, so I think that's a problem. What we want to do is we want to be able to measure a curve, and we measure curves in degrees.
See, Charlie, this room's been unsuccessful in stopping the flat Earth. Do you understand
Man, y'all
that?
obfuscated Charlie anyway. Foolish wanted to interject. I
How
want to
many
hear Charlie's
times do I have
point.
to repeat that? It's not my goal.
What happened?
I think
That'd be cool.
Do you
I think we've been
understand?
pretty successful at it. I think we're pretty well
Can I
demonized
ask
by
my
the flat
question that I wanted to ask like 15 minutes ago?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead, dude. Go ahead. Ask you.
And, I'm genuinely curious why people aren't in here. And in another way, I'm genuinely curious if any glober actually changed the mind of a flat earther, or any flat earther actually changed the mind of any so base glober. Like, what's the?
We've had We've had both in here.
Yeah.
I have an answer for you, Andrew. So me personally, I'm not here to convince anybody. I find
That wasn't
concept.
That wasn't the question he asked, Charlie. Charlie, the question was not. That was not the question asked.
But Charlie actually was on cue though. Charlie was on
He
cue.
asked why people are here, and I'm answering why I'm here. I was that off topic.
No, he asked the question. Has anybody here?
Can you just let Charlie give his own
He
point of
asked
view?
that after he asked it anyway. I'm here not to convince anybody. I don't care. I personally get satisfaction, probably in a similar way to flat earthers thinking about the flat Earth, in discussing with people and talking with people and studying them as how they think. I find it fascinating. I don't give a shit if I convince anybody. I don't.
All right. Okay. Anybody else?
Well, you guys are new.
It's
me
entertaining. It's entertaining.
Me
You guys
personally,
are
I'm just
new.
here to debate. That's all. Like I'm really into it. And
You guys
it's
are
really fun
new.
watching people point out logical fallacies.
You guys are new and you want to get involved in the conversation. But you're not bringing up any new points.
Murrow, don't you say though
I
the
think for
Earth's not
me-
flat? Don't you say that, Murrow?
Saying that I think the psychological part of it has a big role to play in here. And what I'm saying it's that it's really not about the truth anymore. It's just that people get on sides and we're just about trying to prove our own egotistic sides, and that's about it. This is really not going anywhere. I just feel
Flat
it's...
earthers aren't interested in the truth. What are you
I
talking
think
about?
he's right though. I don't
the-
think
the
that.
val-
I don't think that assessment is wrong.
I
think
think
that's
there
what
is
it's
a value
become.
though. I think there is a value though to these discussions, or there is for me. I've learned a shit more about a whole lot of sciences I didn't really understand. One, through the discussions, and two, through going out and actually reading stuff and trying to understand it, and then doing stuff. that's been a benefit to me. It's increased my understanding of science. And that's why I keep coming back, even though some people here piss the fuck out of me.
I agree. I think this has become an egotistical game. I think if we're honest, I think for a lot of us on this side of the argument, it always was anyway. It was always, certainly one of the things that attracted me at the start was the thought that this would be a debate that I definitely couldn't lose, right? And I do get satisfaction in sort of besting someone in an argument, you know? There is a satisfaction in that. But I definitely think I think that probably wasn't so true of flat earthers at the beginning. I think that they were, a lot of them were, when I say the beginning, I'm talking about sort of 2015, my beginning. And I think a lot of them then were looking for truth. They they'd seen these things that had raised doubts in their mind, and they were looking for truth. But I don't think that's the case now. I think it's all about winning arguments on the internet, and I think most flat earthers don't give a fuck about what's true in reality. They don't give a toss about that at all.
So what changed, Jim?
I want to speak on that.
I think that the flat earthers that were honest in the honest search for truth realized that they were wrong and drifted off, and quite a lot of them have done that. And I think the ones that are left, and particularly the ones that are prepared to engage, are the ones that are really ego tripping. And also, I think that if you can engage, I mean, some flat earthers do seek out these engagements, but they want the easy ones. They want people in the street that, and I think that there's a sort of a reaffirming of the belief going on. I think if you can go to someone and say, what's the distance to the sun, and they don't know, and what's the radius of the earth, and they don't know, and how fast does the earth rotate, and they don't know, it makes it seem like that the flat earth narrative of, if everybody else just saw the evidence that we've seen, they'd realize the earth is flat. It makes that seem real, that everybody else just hasn't noticed.
I could get a little I could totally agree with you, Jim. A couple times when you were saying the flat earthers, though, it was more like a large portion of them at the beginning was coming looking for the truth. They found it, they had to dwindle off, or there were things that they were wanting to try to exhaust alternative models, where they felt like maybe like the people who press like, I want the flat earth to be taught in the school, right? Because they think that there's an alternative model, or so they were searching, wanted people, to give the benefit of the doubt and work on it with, and then they got exhausted, so they went away. And now, like you said, now they're ego tripping because that's the portion of it that's left. They're not the ones that are out on the streets preaching to the punching down, as you're saying, I guess, paraphrasing. They weren't the ones looking for the truth in the beginning, right? Is that fair to say? Like that's a portion of them was looking for truth, maybe a portion of them, because how can you preach something, right, if you're still looking for the truth? Like, how can you act like you know it?
Right. I don't think people on this side of the argument were doing that. I think people saw, a bit like Charlie is now, and I was like this too, that all I need to do is go and explain it to these people, and then they'll stop they'll realize they're wrong and stop being flat earth.
Again, you totally misunderstand what I don't know how many times.
We don't care about your motivations, dude. We heard about them about 20 times.
You're misunderstanding me again. No, you don't, apparently.
Well, look, you come here every day and engage in these arguments. You sit here saying, I want an argument with someone.
What a crime,
They don't tell me that you aren't on some sort of ego trip and you aren't trying to convince people you are right.
Oh, I agree. I'm on
that totally your goal in every argument you engage in.
I'm going to summarize it. You're psychologically probing. We get it. You're probing. We get it. You're probing psychologically.
He doesn't understand that, though.
You're a flat earther.
Don't talk about me like I'm not here, dude.
Jim just likes the.
What's wrong with it? What's wrong with the name?
I tried to address you directly, and you're just like, I don't give a fuck, and you're screaming autistically. Like, chill down, dude.
Do you not like being called a flat earther? Is that what it is?
Look, this room isn't about you, Charlie. That's
I
the
know it's
thing you've
not.
got to realize.
I know.
Charlie,
Okay.
show Jem some respect. He's been here since the beginning, and he's been consistent. He hasn't wavered. He sees it his way, and that's it. You can agree, you can take it or leave it.
I mean, I was kindly trying to correct him when he's attributing to me that I just want to convince people that all I have to do is explain to them from my point of view, when that's not how I viewed it at all. And I've said that multiple times on many days that
I
I've been here.
understand you're saying it, but I don't think it's true, dude.
So you think I'm lying?
I think you. No, I don't think you. I don't think you know really what your motivations are.
Oh, so you know
I don't
my
think you-
motivations better than me.
Why are you being
Yeah.
apprehensive? See,
Yes.
that's apprehensive, Charlie.
Yes,
right?
I do.
Okay.
That was apprehensive.
The reason I know that is because I've sat
Your
here for
adversary-
5 years and I've
Uh-huh.
seen 500 of you come and go. That's how I know.
You've never seen anybody like me, my friend.
Wow.
That's what they all say, though. That's what they all say.
Sorry,
I
I'm
know.
laughing aloud.
We all know
I know.
what DNA is, dude. Come on. Like, what the fuck?
Everybody has their own
come on.
personal experience with the
Yeah,
flat.
like, what?
I
Seriously.
think it's a bit unfair, Charlie, to say that you can't sort of gauge or come to a conclusion about someone when you observe their action.
You're right. You can. You absolutely can, right? But I like but dude, what I'm trying to be nice to him when he's saying something that I know to be factually incorrect, and I'm trying to like let him know that he's wrong,
But again,
and he's clinging on to the idea. So like, and then he comes to the conclusion after I say that.
Clinging on to the
not only do
idea,
believe
I
what
am
I'm
formulating
saying,
a conclusion.
Not only do I believe
I'm
what I am
formulating
saying.
a conclusion
Okay, so we're
based
just
on
gonna
my.
we're just gonna scream over
I'm-
each other.
Well,
I
if you're going to
respect
talk,
this.
if
This
you're
is
gonna,
great respect. I
if you're-
respect you a lot now. I respect you more for this. So
You're muted. If you're going to talk about me like I'm not here and say he's clinging on to the idea like you're talking about some little fucking child who isn't here, yes, I'm going to interrupt you, you disrespectful cunt. I gave my reasons. My
Well, to be fair, you're
reasons
not
are
being
my,
very respectful
my
to him
reasons
either,
are my
so.
experience. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying. I'm not clinging on to an idea. You don't know. You're a newbie. You don't know this arena at all. I do.
He does.
okay, are you done?
And you guys aren't unique.
Am I
You're
silent?
quite weak.
I mean, I tried to address you directly, right? I attempted that on multiple occasions, and then you
Hey,
scream back at me
Charlie.
that you're not interested.
Charlie, right now, say something unique. Go.
Charlie, that's Merle. Just ignore him, okay?
You say
Can you tell us about the
unique.
flat moon?
I think we all just need to get along.
I agree. I just want peace and love, man.
Hell yeah.
Everybody has their own personal experience with the flat Earth.
And to Merle, something unique. I've now fulfilled your request.
Merle, say something intelligent. That'd be a first.
You're a fuckwit.
That wasn't intelligent. That was an insult. That was a good attempt, but well, not really a good attempt. I've been insulted by better, so.
So, Charlie, I mean, you've had a time to think about the science, the measurements. Okay, so we have the measurements of the Earth. Yeah, we can agree with that. Just calculations. What about science? What is the science that proves we're on a spinning ball?
I mean, that I would say that falls under science.
No, that's just a measurement.
I know, but just because you found two different words for them doesn't mean that they're totally separated.
Yeah, but you
Right,
just made a measurement, Charlie. You didn't manipulate your independent variable, right?
Oh god. So are we clinging on to this idea that science is only an experiment where there is an independent variable and a dependent variable, and that is what science is?
Well, how else are you going to know the cause to the effect, Charlie?
Oh boy. I'm gonna go get my hair done, put on some clothes. I'll be right back, okay?
Another one bites the dust.
I know, man.
That's the way things go, Charlie. You see, people have this belief, and you ask them simple questions concerning the shape of the Earth, asking for measurements, asking for science. And
Chemo.
It wasn't really a gotcha.
Why are you lying?
Chemo, you're talking to
Bites the
nobody right
dust.
now.
He's talking
Chemo's
to me.
lying. Let's address Chemo's lie real quick.
He's not lying.
Chemo. have we measured the actual distance of the circumnavigation of the planet?
North to south, never know.
Okay, so you're just gonna lie. Cool.
That's not
That's
a
a
lie.
lie. What? How am I lying? What do you mean? Correct me if I'm lying. Prove that someone has done north to south. Let's take a look.
One more orbit.
One more orbit, every nautical chart, every it was done in the 1960s. It took them 2 years to do it, and they
Now
managed to
who's
stay
lying?
on one line of
Now who's
latitude.
lying?
So
Are you lying,
It would
mate?
still be chemo, Merle. That would still be who's lying.
Yep. I just named
you
three
sure?
times where
Every
they've
nautical
directly.
map shows north to south.
You didn't say every nautical map.
You did.
No, I didn't. But good try.
You did.
Just trying to figure out. Just to
Rewind
have
the
Charlie
tape.
here because Charlie, like I've just heard, he's a newbie.
So you're
Charlie's not here.
Charlie's
you're
still
gonna
in the
lie to him?
room,
That
but
helps
he's
him?
getting his hair cut, so he's listening. So you guys can help Charlie with science and measurements. So you said a boat has been around north to south, Kool-Aid, and they measured it.
No, never said
Nobody
that,
said
Chemo.
that.
But good try. Good try. You want to keep lying, or
I asked
would
you
you
a
like to come back to
question. What
reality?
did you say? It was a question. I didn't say you said that. I said, did you say?
You just said he said that.
Did you say this? No, you said what? What did you say?
N-O, you dumb fuck.
So then
What's
what
wrong
did
with
you
you?
say
Answer
about the
question.
measurement
Mouth.
of north?
Okay, cool. You can't hear what anybody else is saying because you don't stop talking long enough. No, I never said somebody has sailed north to south around the planet. There's freaking continents and ice shelves in the way.
Mm-hmm. Where do they go? Around the equator.
So you said that Chemo was lying, and then you lied, and then
Exactly.
me and
Chemo
Chemo
is
pulled
lying.
you up, and then you changed your
Chemo is
story.
lying.
And now you're back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What was the lie?
You said we've never measured the circumference of the Earth. That is a lie.
Who's done it? When? How? What? What?
Would you like exact distances? If
no,
you want it.
you want to see someone
Oh,
measure it.
okay. I'm sorry, I don't have a 24-hour live stream with timestamps for you.
Why not?
It's on papers. You have to
Why?
actually be
Why
able to
Okay,
read.
so
Why not?
Okay, so Eratos. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. Is because it's Greek, like actually Greek. But Eratosthenes is the person who did it in the year 200 BC, and he measured that it was 46,250 kilometers. In miles, that is 8,735. Today, the planet's circumference is roughly around 40,000 kilometers. So the reason why he got the first number is because he was measuring it inaccurately and got a different number than what we got today because we have better instruments. So we effectively have more accurate tools to measure what the shape of the Earth is than we did since the BC era. But even then, since the BC era, with inaccurate tools, we were able to figure out what the shape of the Earth was.
Mm-hmm. Why
The
do you
Greeks
believe
didn't
those
have-
ancient stories, Alex? Is it Alex?
Oh, well, what was it? What was that you said? Hang on, I have a live stream open at the same time. What was that?
Why do you believe those ancient stories?
Well, what are you referring to? What do you mean by ancient story? I'm very confused. Just so we're on the same page here.
So you said somebody some time ago did something somewhere.
Well, I feel like
BC.
you're being a little bit. To be
Before
fair, I feel like
Christ.
you're going a little bit disingenuous when you phrase it like that, as a way to frame me as like an idiot in some way. So specifically, I don't know. Let me actually figure out how to pronounce this guy's name correctly, so I'm not doing him injustice.
He's not trying to make you be an idiot. It's just light on details. It's a bit vague. That's all he's saying.
Okay, Eratosthenes is his name.
Can you agree that we can do it
Well, I
today?
only asked you why does he believe that story?
Well, we can do it
you-
today, so at least it's plausible.
Well,
Yeah,
the
but
po-
the funny thing is, you
but
could
the
do
thing-
different shadows on both a flat and a curved surface, and they'll be the same.
Nope.
No, but I know,
Yes,
but
they
he was
will.
doing this with. hang on. What was the experiment that he used with a shadow? Okay, let's see.
He did the funny sticks with the shadows.
Well, the problem with the thing is that the estimate that he gave. Well, the thing that he did was that gave a rough estimate of what the Earth would be, and the problem. But even with that rough estimate, they figured out that the Earth was a sphere just based on that alone.
No, they're saying this is happening because it is a sphere. Not that doesn't prove it is a sphere. They're just assuming it's a sphere because it does that.
Well, the reason why they're getting the circumference of the sphere is because they've already proved it's a sphere based on actual observations that they made.
Like
No.
what?
Already.
What
No.
observations?
Not before they did the
it's-
experiment.
Like the
Well-
observations that went into making the astrolabs that were available to Eratosthenes.
Okay, give an example.
So one observation that they made is particularly with the moon, in that how the moon works on a flat Earth doesn't make any sense in relation to how people observe it. So
How so?
So let's have 4 people on separate points of the area, okay? And we had us, and you have like some sort of object in the sky, okay? That object does not change whatsoever no matter how we look at it, okay? Similar to how the moon works. And what that means is that, and if we were to take this and apply it to a flat Earth, then that would mean that the moon itself would operate on a completely different way than we know how it does to how we observe it. So, it doesn't make sense for the Earth, and rather the moon, I should say, to operate on a flat Earth. Forgive me if I'm stumbling all the way.
That's all right. Take your time.
So it's not like I'm like here like.
No, it's the chat there, the pictures. Carry on, you're doing good.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem practical to measure the Earth with sticks and shadows and lights in the sky.
Okay, so
carry on, Alex.
Okay, so the way that it works is that how it doesn't make sense for the moon to work on a flat Earth, mainly because of how we observe it. It doesn't make how we observe it. Herbert clearly contradicts how it works on a flat Earth. There you go.
Yeah, but I mean, what do we know about the moon, Alex? I mean, we know that it gives off its own light.
How do you know? How do you know it gives off its own light?
Oh, because have you heard of a lunar rainbow or nighttime rainbow?
Well, to my knowledge, at nighttime, there's no possible way for a rainbow to exist.
Exactly, Alex. That's my point, you see. So to your knowledge, it would be impossible to have a nighttime rainbow. But if you Google moonbow or lunar bow, do it right now, have a look at that, and you'll see nighttime rainbows. I'm about to say nighttime rainbows. And then that demonstrates 100%, because you can't make a rainbow, Alex, with reflected light. Oh, if you can, then can you show me a demonstration of a rainbow with reflected light?
So the way that a double, I'm looking at this double moon mode. Moon is located beyond.
Just Google lunar bow or night bow or moon night. You've got it, yeah?
I think that's because
lunar bow. Just put nighttime rainbow or something like that.
You got the moon far enough away that the lights are beginning to become more parallel, so it would work just fine. Just deal with low intensity light.
Oh, that's the principle, but you'd have to show with a demonstration practically that you can create a rainbow with reflected light. See?
Yeah, that's a good point.
You would need to show
you understand,
it's
Alex?
possible.
That Alex,
Your claim,
you don't know what the moon is.
Question. So are you saying?
Why don't you back it up?
Thank you,
Okay,
Chemo.
so wait, hold on, guys. Okay. So, Chemo. So what you're saying is that because the moon isn't reflecting, so you're saying that rainbows cannot form based off reflective light.
Oh no!
So basically,
you need direct light.
Okay. Okay. So the problem with this is that there's nothing that says you can't have a rainbow form if the light is reflected. You can easily test this with a mirror.
I know, that's what people have tried. So for years, Alex, the globe earthers have attempted to replicate the nighttime rainbow with reflected light. Never achieved it, Alex. Nobody's been able to replicate.
But the problem is that a rainbow is a meteorological phenomenon that is caused by a reflection in and of itself. So what you're talking about doesn't make any sense.
No, I get it. I understand the explanation, but I'm talking about the practical world. So listen, the practical.
I'm not sure you actually do, because you're saying a rainbow can't form off of a reflection, even though a rainbow in itself is caused by a reflection.
I know your calculations say yes, you can make this happen with the reflected light. I get that. But we're talking about the real world. So if you try to use reflected light, you try to demonstrate this with a real, mirror with light reflected, and try to cause or make a rainbow, you'll never do it. Understand?
Yeah. But the problem is that the problem is that you clearly are able. Well, the problem is that you clearly are able to, based off of this alone. I mean, and not to mention, how does this? If the moon is always able to is always its own light source, what is causing it to not be a fully lit moon 24/7? Just to the curiosity.
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know, but I do know the cause of a nighttime rainbow, which is direct light. You're saying,
But Chemo, you have to understand that every single time we observe the moon, the shapes on the moon never change whatsoever. You always think the only way that they change is based on what part of the Earth you're on. So
again, that's your model. I'm not arguing.
I'm not talking about the model. I'm not talking about a model. I'm talking about something that we've observed for thousands of years.
What?
Every single time we observe the moon, the shapes on the moon, such as like craters, lines, dots, whatever you want to call them, have always stayed the same. You're saying that the moon itself is a direct sunlight. Okay, what is causing the light stopping? What is causing the light in certain sections stopping and creating like things like a lunar moon or whatever?
I don't know.
Well, we can ask you the same thing. Why isn't the sun hitting the whole entire moon?
Because there's nothing blocking it. That's why. With the moon, what we have is that the Earth itself is actually blocking it. But the problem with clouds, you can't even see the moon or the sun, so the sun doesn't really work.
For your standard of evidence, I just posted in chat a YouTube video. If you go to 1 minute 5 seconds, it starts at 1 minute 4 seconds, you can see a rainbow being created off a mirror, exactly what you asked for.
Oh my
Sorry,
gosh.
this was a video designed for little kids.
You're not listening. You've got to create the rainbow at night with reflected light like the moon.
Wait, you said it got to be reflected light. This is reflected light. You said a mirror specifically. This is meeting your target objective exactly. If you want to amend your...
No, that's not a rainbow. That's not a rainbow. That's just light through a prism.
Okay, question. What is the definition of a rainbow? So we're all on the same page here, because
there's no prism at this point timestamp in the video, Chemo. The only thing that is there is a pail of water and a mirror.
Yeah, that's on the wall. That's not what we see in nature.
Oh, in nature we are able. Question. I'm pretty sure in nature we are able.
Rainbows are not on the wall. They're in the atmosphere. So you've got to make we can make a rainbow in the air with direct light.
Going through a prism. It's not the same thing.
No, we can make a rainbow in the air with direct light. We can replicate what the sun does, no problem. But can we replicate reflected light at night with reflected light? Impossible. Need that direct light. So that proves, Alex, that you don't know what the moon is.
Also need to stand on one.
You're guessing.
But the problem is, Chemo, is that you have yet to establish how it's done that. Why the moon itself?
Oh, I don't know why
works in certain ways.
I don't know why. I can't make up stuff.
The creator.
Because you can't say that the moon itself is a direct light source when it just blocks light on a whim. When the sun itself is a direct light source, yet that just stays constant with 24/7.
Again, now you're taking me down the model building route. I've
I'm
got
not
a
talking about
practical
models, I'm trying to figure out
demonstration.
why.
I've got a real world practical. We can see nighttime rainbows. We don't need any more than you experimenting with reflected light, giving us a rainbow in the
but the
atmosphere
problem
like
is
you
a
see in
rainbow-
nature. Now you're
but
just
the
trying to
problem is,
bargain
Chemo, a
with me by saying, well, my model
Chemo, the
says...
problem is though,
Mhm.
Chemo, the problem is that a rainbow in and of itself is based off of reflected light. So
No,
what you're
it's not.
talking about is some. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's based
Direct-
off of reflected light.
No, it's direct light, dude.
No, it's based off
we
reflected
just proved
light.
it to you, bro.
Yeah, it's based off direct light being
We
reflected,
just
not
proved it
reflected
to
light
But the
being
problem,
reflected
you have
again.
this is literally, you can literally test this immediately with a garden hose in the sun, in which when you have the whole
Yeah, the
garden hose,
direct
like,
light
the
is
right
direct
angle.
light,
He doesn't know how the moon works.
Yes,
He
it's
doesn't
based
know
off
how the
reflected
moon
light.
Yeah. No, it's based off direct light being reflected into the atmosphere.
Correct.
Alex, what are you saying here? Who's been educating you on these things?
But the problem is, Chemo, is that you have to establish how the moon as a light source works when it.
I've just told you how. I've just told you what more.
No,
do
you haven't.
need?
You said you keep saying that it's a reflective light source because it's able to produce rainbows.
No.
So
It's not
like,
reflective.
okay.
It's
So
direct. Direct moonlight makes the rainbow.
A rainbow is based off reflected light.
No, it's based off direct light being reflected, dude. It's different.
You're saying, Alex, that the sun is lighting up the moon, which is that moon is now making a rainbow from the reflected light.
Oh, define a rainbow. Define a rainbow. So we're on the same page here.
Define a rainbow.
Source light.
It's like
a rainbow source light.
It's like light passing through a prism and bending the light, creating the colors. I mean.
Okay, so that's your definition. Here's my definition, which is based off of the dictionary. An arc of colors formed in the sky in a certain circumstance caused by refraction and dispersion of the sunlight by rain or in other water droplets in the atmosphere.
I just said the same thing basically.
Okay.
So let me ask this, Chemo. If I was to, just to understand your position, if I was to take a incandescent light or an LED light or something and reflect it off a mirror, you contend that reflected light going through my garden hose will not make a rainbow.
Reflected light will not make a night bow, no.
Your garden hose will not light up like the moon.
Your garden hose is reflecting direct sunlight.
Get real.
But I've seen rainbows. I contend that if I shoot it through a mirror and reflect it, I will get the same rainbow based upon the intensity of light that comes over my shoulder through the rain and reflects back to my eyes from the rain droplets.
Oh, boy, just trying to get unnecessarily technical and complicated. Very simple, okay, Alex?
He doesn't know how to make a source light.
Yeah, you need to prove your model with science and real-world measurement. What do we have, Alex?
Right. I'm trying to set up a test for you. I'm going to do it. And I just wanted to know if it's acceptable to you.
You want to get hold of Jose and speak to Carlos. Carlos attempted this a couple of years ago and failed. We haven't seen him since.
I don't care who else failed. I want to know, is it acceptable that I bounce a light off a mirror? Is a mirrored surface an acceptable reflector for you?
Yeah, it's got to be in the air, like what we see in nature. Yeah.
I am going to reflect it into a garden hose stream in a dark room. And I'm going to fucking see a rainbow. I'm asking you, is that acceptable to you?
As long as the cause is the reflected light, yeah.
Okay, so reflecting from a mirror is a reflected light from a mirror acceptable to you?
Yeah.
All you have to do is say yes.
Yes, obviously.
Thank you.
That's what I've been saying the whole time.
You're a cunt.
That's been the whole the point.
I say no.
Okay, so that means, Chemo, that with that possibility put in place, you have to find another way to prove that the moon is a direct light source.
No, it's been done.
But the problem is, Chemo, is that he provided a hypothetical to which to be done, in which if it's possible to be done with a mirror, then that means that. And if that is true, then that means you can't use that as a way to prove that the moon is a direct source of light.
Oh yeah, of course, but I already know that someone's already tried to do it. They failed. So Moyak's not going to have any sex. He just tells stories.
Well, no. Who was the person that tried it and failed?
Carlos. I don't know if you know. He's from Jose's. Carlos, his name.
He's a reasonable thinker.
He's a ball earther and he failed. It's not possible. Know this. I mean, what's so difficult? Direct light makes a rainbow.
This is so awesome.
And that's what we're
Why
saying,
is it-
Alex. We need the science to back up the claim of the heliocentric model. Okay? And there is none whatsoever.
Well, you have yet. Well, going back to the normal argument that I make for why the Earth is a sphere, you have yet to actually explain. The only thing that you've been able to say for it, if you remember correctly,
personal dome. Remember?
Personal domes don't exist.
Well, that's what you say. It's just
okay, prove it.
Well, have a look at Walter Bislin's flat Earth model.
Yeah, well, how about you explain it to me since you're the one making the claims?
Well, you have to accept extreme light bending.
Well, the problem is that you have to explain how a personal dome exists. It's your job since you're the one making the claim.
Well, it's just the way the atmosphere works, how far you can see.
How does the atmosphere work?
Well, it acts like a lens. So because things are magnified to you, you only get to see so much around you if you spin around in 360 degrees, like in a circle. That area is as far as you can see, and everything in that enclosure is your personal dome.
But the problem is that it doesn't make sense for the sky to rotate on a completely different positions simply because you're in a different location in the world. Therefore, what you see is different. It doesn't make any sense, especially at nighttime when there literally is no light.
It makes sense if you look at Walter Bislin's flat Earth model and understand how light bends. I mean, it's very difficult because
But we're observing something where there literally is no light. And we're observing. That's the problem with this.
No, but the medium still affects things like stars and stuff.
Kimo, that model is not a reunification fallacy.
Yeah, I don't accept models.
So why? So why are we employing it in this case?
He wants
If it's
a
a
model.
reunification fallacy for you.
He wants a model. He wants.
No, he doesn't want the model.
I specifically never said I wanted a model. I specifically said explain how this works, and the only thing you said is that because the atmosphere acts like a lens, that means that what you see is going to be different. Even though the atmosphere in and of itself doesn't actually change how an object works, or in the case this object is the sky. A spherical lens does not automatically change the direction of how something moves.
Yeah, but again, if you looked at Walter Bislin's model.
Well, how about can you explain what it is rather than telling me to go to him because you're the one making the claim?
No, because I don't adhere to models. They are reification fallacies.
Then why are you bringing it up? Because you're using him as a source, yet you don't believe in using them as a source. So, what the hell are you talking about?
Because you want an explanation on how the sky works.
But you yourself don't even agree to the model because in and of itself it's using a model for it. So it literally doesn't make any sense. You're using this as a source when you don't agree with it.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said there will never be a flat Earth model. We will never be able to answer these things about how the sky works because there's obviously too much things going on in the sky.
But you're saying, but the problem is, Kimo, is that you're saying that this is how the sky works, even though you always also saying that we'll never know how the sky works. So you literally don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm saying if you want an answer, there are models that explain these things. Now, it's up to you whether you agree with it or not.
The problem is, Kimo.
Hold on. Just like you were given the globe model, and they said there's a force. Okay, there's a force. You accepted that force without testing it. Now, in Walter Bislin's model, there's light.
Well, to be fair, Kimo, I never actually cited any form of model in order to make my assumption that the Earth is a sphere. What you're talking, so you're assuming stuff about me that you don't already know, and even then, you're the person who is saying, "Oh, personal domes are how this works." Here is the person that says it, and I'm asking you to explain it, and then you're saying, "Oh, I'm not going to cite this because I don't believe in models." So you're citing something to which you yourself don't even believe. So what are you even going to talk to me about? Because you clearly don't know have a way to prove this.
Because I deal with practical elements. Practical.
And explain how it works.
Well, I don't have an experiment to explain these things. So
what I'm
working with
how
you
this works
to help you understand how it may work. No, but
But you're refusing to explain how it works because you're saying the guy uses a model even though you're citing it.
Mm-hmm.
So explain to me how it works.
Again, I said we.
Because this is the thing about etiquette in terms of like actually debating and exchanging a conversation.
Yeah, because we
when
don't have
you're
a
talking
model.
about something. No, when you're explaining something and someone asks you to elaborate on it, it is your responsibility as the person who's talking about it to elaborate more on it. You may not like that whatsoever because it dismantles your ideas, but that is exactly what you have to do. Now you can be honest about this and say, I'm not familiar enough or educated enough to actually explain how this works, but that's not what you're doing. What you're doing is you're saying, oh, I don't believe in models, so I'm not going to use this, even though you're directly citing this as a way to explain how this works.
Okay, so I don't know if you've noticed how I approached this conversation in the first place.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the way you approach it is based on practicality, correct?
Right. So as far as I can see, practically, the water does not curve. So anything beyond that, we're going into, misplaced concreteness, essentially. None of us know beyond the flat horizon, okay, that doesn't curve. That's all we can see. We can observe that the water doesn't curve. There's no force that makes it curve. That's all we know right now. Now, that's why I've been asking if there is any more support that, other than just like your poetry, your ideas, your, what you think. And that's where we are. That's why I asked Charlie earlier on today, has
the water does curve,
has the Earth only been calculated or measured?
Here's something you need to understand, Chemo, when you're talking to me, okay? I don't accept deflective tactics or logical fallacies easily.
Right.
So, and what you just did right there was an attempt to deflect the point. Please explain to me how personal domes work with your own practical vision.
Again, that is just a reification of a possibility of how the sky may work. There's no There's no concreteness in this whatsoever because we don't have a model. And like I said, Walter Bisley.
Then why are you? Can you at least explain to me how it works? You don't need a model to figure out how this works. All you need
are you
is
blind?
to find
Are you
some sort of
blind,
way to
Alex?
explain.
Are you blind?
I'm asking him, not.
Do you have eyes?
I'm asking him.
Do you have
I'm
eyes?
asking him. I'm asking him. Do you have a way to explain how?
Are you blind?
Are you gonna actually talk about this, or are you going to explain how? Are you gonna explain how personal domes work? Or are you gonna keep saying irrelevant questions to the topic at hand? Okay.
Well, like I said, Walter Bisley explains it with the way light bends. But again, for me, because it's misplaced.
But can you explain it?
Because you can't put any, you can't put any emphasis on these things that are not concrete, right?
But the problem. Well, if you're saying that this thing that you're citing itself is non-concrete, it seems very illogical and idiotic to say, "Oh, I believe this thing 100%," but even though it's not 100% concrete. So what you're doing is very idiotic.
No, the model is not concrete.
Well, okay, then don't do the model. Explain how the personal domes work.
Well, I've just said it's due to light bending and perspective. How that works if you mesh the two together. Let me get you the model.
Light bending does not change how an object works.
No, this is extreme light bending. This is.
But the problem is we're observing the sky at a time when there's no light whatsoever. So what you're citing as like, oh, the light is bending, doesn't actually apply to reality whatsoever.
Hold on, I'll get you the model. Have a look at this. And then again, it's down to opinion. You can agree with a force of gravity, or you can agree with the way the light bends in the atmosphere. Okay?
But the problem is that light bending in itself doesn't change how something works.
Here, take a look at this. You've probably never seen it before. But this is a model which explains your personal dome, explains your eclipses. What else do we explain? The poles, stars,
Okay.
equinox, day, night time. You can even press play.
Kimo, have you read the description of this model? For real, man.
Have you read the description?
Have you read the whole
Have you read
description
the
of this
description on
model?
your model? Your model says if you accept a magical force of gravity, then the heliocentric model works perfectly. Did you read that part?
Yes, we read the description.
My question it was, did you read the description of what you have been posted?
Yes, I read it.
So?
Did you read the part on your globe heliocentric model?
Okay. Okay, so the problem. Okay, so here's another. Okay, so you did manage to provide an example of how this works for personal domes.
There you
which
go.
Which at first glance. So I'm assuming you're assuming that the Earth. Obviously, you don't believe that the Earth is a disc, in the sense that there's no confirmation of a model. I'm assuming, correct?
Look, models are reifications.
So
you asked me how does something work. Ball Earther made a model with personal domes. He can explain to. Oh, you got a super chat there, Jim. He can explain to you exactly your question of how these things work on a flat plane. I don't believe in any of this because it's a reification. Okay, it's a fallacy. Okay, and I'm only giving you an answer because, like I said, as far as I'm willing to go is if it's beyond practical, then you'll never know it. I'm not going to take your best guess.
Primordial Memories says, much better listening for those on YouTube than the boring, deranged ramblings of the dying echo chamber of 24/7. Thank you very much for the super chat, Primordial Memories. Good point. Well made, I think. Go ahead,
So,
sorry.
You've got the intro there, as you can see, Alex, with the personal dome, how it works. Now, again, it's up to you. This is opinion based. You can be of the opinion, well, this is the way light bends, or you can be of the opinion.
So I'm looking at how this works. I'm looking at the personal dome that's being set right here. Okay.
Yeah.
This doesn't actually explain. This doesn't actually explain how it works, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. Okay. In the actual point that it's providing right here. Okay. So I don't know how you control this exactly. Okay. So it's saying right here that. It's saying right here that in Africa, okay, that you're able to see both the sky looking towards the north. You're able to see it rotate counterclockwise, and if you look south, you're able to see it clockwise. There is no way in hell, and I'm using hell as a way to demonstrate how this works. I'm not using it as an emotional way. There is no way in hell that you're able to see the sky rotate counterclockwise and clockwise at the same exact time, simply because you're in the center of the earth. That is beyond logical. The only way you could possibly see that and still be sane as a human being is if you have eye problems. That is the only way you can be able to see that.
Yeah, but again, Alex, it's all down to your opinion. Okay, so if you believe,
but the problem
if you believe,
the problem is chemo is that. The problem is chemo is that you're saying it's opinionated, and it's objectively proven that when you go to the equator of the Earth, you see the sky rotate from east to west. You don't see it rotate from east to west above you. Look right, see it move counterclockwise, and look left and see it go clockwise. That is not proven whatsoever, which is why this model. And I'm using the model of personal domes, what you cited as a way to do this.
Open up your eyes.
Yeah, but this is why I'm trying not to get into an argument here about this and say you've never proven this pulling force of mass attracting mass sufficiently, and you're saying we've never shown how light bends in this manner, which is why these models are down to your opinion only.
Models are not down to
see?
But the problem is that, but the problem is, chemo, is that you're citing this model that you're using. You're saying that this is how this works, okay?
No, I'm not saying how it works.
Saying
this
that
is how Walter Bislin thinks.
No,
specific
no,
to
God
opening
damn
up
it.
your eyes.
Walter
No, see,
Bislin saying, in
Chemo,
order
you
to
know
make a
that
flat
that's not
Earth
how.
model and make
You
it
know
work.
that's not how Walter Bislin says that it works.
No,
Walter
it
Bislin.
says in order to make it work.
He does not say that it works.
In order
He
to make
says
it
that-
work, you have to allow for extreme light bending. He's
Chemo, I
told
don't
you
know
this
if
can
you're
work on a flat
noticing
Earth
that,
model.
but you're interrupting him.
Chemo, you keep making logical fallacies and failing to understand how observations work when in this conversation I've had with you.
Anyway, let's share the mic with Peace of Mind.
You keep making deflection tactics. You keep assuming that I'm assuming that the Earth, as by the heliocentric model, is what I think it's believed, which I've never stated that whatsoever. I just mainly stated that it is based on how this works. You're then citing of a specific way of how it works based on this model. You may not agree with the model itself, but the specific thing they're using for the model, and then you'll keep rejecting it simply by saying, "Oh, I don't believe here the models." And even then, I demonstrated how this doesn't work in logical reality. So